Finally, both of these phones arrived so I can do this review. So here we are, this highly late behind all the other reviews of the iPhone 12 and the iPhone 12 Pro. Now I think it makes sense to do a review of both of these phones at the same time, just because it's easier to compare the differences, and also I can't be bothered to edit two videos. We'll start with the colour choices then. So unsurprisingly, on the 12 Pro you get some more flashy colours like Pacific Blue, Gold, Graphite and Silver. On the 12 you get 5 colour choices, so you get Blue, Green, Product Red, White and Black. They've omitted the purple, which you used to be able to get on the 11, which won't be missed because it was quite ugly really. The colours that I have gone for are Pacific Blue for the Pro and just normal blue for the 12. I think these will actually be the most popular colours, and personally I think these are actually the best looking colours available. So in the box then, as well as the phone, you get the usual SIM card pin, instruction manual which no one ever looks at, and obligatory Apple sticker, USB-C cable as well, just because Apple is Apple, and no plug because Apple say they want to save the planet. But I'm happy to report that the unboxing experience is still enjoyable, and peeling off the sticker on the front is still as orgasmic as usual. Design wise, probably the key difference between the two is on the 12 you've got this glossy back, and on the 12 Pro you've got this matte black design. I think this Pacific Blue on the 12 Pro looks excellent, to be honest, I'm not going to lie. And on the 12, the blue I think still looks pretty fantastic. So now we've got this ceramic shield around the outside, which is matte on the 12 and glossy on the 12 Pro. It's apparently got 4 times better drop performance. Not really sure how they measure that, but I'm definitely not testing that here, and I don't think many people will be testing that either. Unfortunately, the 12 Pro's shiny ceramic shield only stays that way for all of 1 minute when you take it out of the box because it is a fingerprint magnet. The 12 doesn't suffer from this problem due to the matte ceramic shield, but unfortunately due to the 12's shiny and glossy back, this is where all of your fingerprints will gather instead. The side benefit of this though is that the 12 is slightly more grippy and less easy to drop than the 12 Pro if you've got slightly moist fingers like me. In terms of weight, the iPhone 12 weighs 162 grams, the iPhone 12 Pro weighs in slightly heavier at 187 grams. So it's definitely not the lightest phone out there, and that's probably because of all of the glass and metal that they use on these phones. You can see here alongside my old iPhone SE, looks suspiciously like they've recycled some old parts from that. But I think the reason why they've gone back to this old square design is just so that they can fit more shit inside the phone. You can see here alongside the iPhone 8, these phones have definitely gotten thicker over the years. Looking at some of these older models as well, if you are coming from an iPhone 7 or an 8, it's going to feel weird holding such a big phone in your hand. If you look at the iPhone 6 Plus there as well, these new 11s and 12s, pretty much the same size as that, and the 6 Plus was considered a big phone at the time. Some people prefer the rounded edges of the previous models, but personally I quite like the squared off edges. It feels a little bit more comfortable to hold and less likely to drop, especially if you're using it with one hand. The only minor complaint that I do have with the design is that the camera slightly protrudes, so when you put it flat on the back it doesn't really sit flush, but just a first world complaint really. Both of these phones have an IP68 rating, so they are water resistant down to a depth of 6 meters for up to 30 seconds, which is really useful for people who want to take their phones down to 6 meters for up to 30 seconds. You get OLED displays as standard now across all 12 models. On the 12 and 12 Pro, the resolution is 2532 by 1170. The 12 Pro's display is slightly brighter at 800 nits as opposed to 625 on the 12. Can't really notice a huge difference here, but weirdly, when you play back HDR content, it goes up to 1200 nits on both phones. Overall, it is a fantastic screen to look at. I find myself just scrolling through stuff for no reason. Just annoying that it's still only 60 Hz, just Apple being Apple. Yes, that annoying notch is still there because of the true depth system, but surely they could make that a bit smaller, couldn't they? In terms of performance, all of the 12 models get the A14 Bionic chip, which is apparently the fastest chip in any smartphone. All you need to know is that the performance is blistering. It plows through apps without any problems, and it's really good news if you're a gamer, as you can see here. All the games run at very high frame rates and the visuals are dead impressive. The sound from the loudspeakers comes out at a pretty decent volume and quality. You've got the speakers on the bottom and on the earpiece, which gives you that stereo-y kind of effect. But this system is largely unchanged from the iPhone 11. Face ID is the same as before. I just wish they would put a fingerprint reader in, just because it's not very hygienic having to remove my mask whenever I want to unlock my phone in public. On to the part that everyone wants to know about then, the cameras. So both the 12 and the 12 Pro have the same 12 megapixel wide and ultra wide lenses. The Pro gets an additional telephoto lens, just like in the 11 Pro. You also have this LiDAR scanner as well, which apparently lets you take better night portraits. And it's also supposed to be good for augmented reality. Both of these phones have the same front-facing 12 megapixel camera with true depth, so you can take really cool looking selfie portraits. As you can see in this photo, the results are quite impressive on both phones. Both have very good clarity, good bokehing effect in the background. Can't really tell the difference between the two. As mentioned, on the 12 Pro you get the additional telephoto lens. What that means for you is that on the 12 you get up to 5 times digital zoom, and on the 12 Pro you can have up to 10 times digital zoom. Wow. I would have to question how useful this is really, unless you like to spy on people from a distance. And it also isn't as good as the Samsung S20's 100 times digital zoom either. But again, there I would have to wonder how many times people use the 100 times digital zoom for photos. In terms of real world photo taking, both of these phones seem to take pretty nice looking photos if I'm honest. Good colours, good dynamic range. You can't really tell any difference between the two. The same can be said for both wide-angle lenses as well. Both of them take very good wide-angle pictures with good colours, good clarity and good dynamic range. The one advantage that the 12 Pro does have with the telephoto camera is if you use the 2 times optical zoom, it takes pretty good zoomed-in pictures with this. So this is a bit more useful. So overall, yeah, decent camera. The rest of these photos were taken indoors in the middle of a cloudy day, so just the light coming from through the windows. And yeah, lots of colour, nice sharpness to the pictures as well. Yeah, 10 out of 10 really. Just like on the iPhone 11, you can use portrait mode on objects as well as people. And I have to say both phones do equally as good a job. I can't really see the difference between the two. There are odd occasions where it does get it wrong because a lot of the portrait mode processing is done by software. So it does occasionally blur the wrong part of the object. Also, both of these phones have very good autofocusing, so you can get some pretty crisp close-up images. And again, you can't really tell the difference between the two. Night mode. This is where the 12 and the 12 Pro shine. So as you can see here, out of my back garden at night, there is really hardly any light at all. And yet the 12 and the 12 Pro seems to just pick up the smallest bit of light and is able to build a pretty incredible image out of it. You can adjust the amount of time that you want the shutter to stay open for with the little night mode icon on the top left of the camera. You can choose a maximum of 10 seconds. However, below a certain level of light, as you're going to see with this image, it will end up looking a little bit grainy, which is completely understandable considering how little light there is. In reality though, these are the kind of night mode conditions that people will be using. If we look at the little lamp that's next to the guitar, that is the only source of light in this room. You'll have to take my word for it. There is not a lot of light coming from that lamp. So night mode on both the 12 and the 12 Pro is really impressive. And again, even with these pictures side by side, you can't really tell the difference between the two. Selfie portraits are okay in low light conditions. They are a bit brighter on the Pro there. Again, this is a non-scientific experiment. You can use night mode on just a normal front-facing camera, and again, the results are just okay. The 12 Pro does allow you to use night mode in portrait mode, so that does allow you more brightness and a bit more color. I am a bit surprised that the iPhone 12 Pro gets some of the focusing wrong considering it's got the LiDAR scanner. I do have to concede that where this night mode and portrait mode really wins is when you use it on real people. You'll have to excuse my rather fed up looking wife here. I did ask her to take this photo about a million times, but you can see on the 12 Pro, the night portrait is certainly a lot brighter and a lot sharper with a lot more dynamic range. This is probably thanks to that new LiDAR scanner on the back. I would have thought that the LiDAR scanner would help in shooting video and autofocusing in low light conditions, but I really couldn't see a difference between the two here, which was rather weird. Speaking of video, both of these phones can shoot up to 4K and 60 frames per second. The only difference is that the 12 Pro allows you to shoot Dolby Vision up to 60 frames per second, whereas the 12 only allows you to shoot with Dolby Vision up to 30 frames per second. I find with the Dolby Vision, it does tend to make the video a bit more brighter and a bit more colourful, but it tends to overdo it on certain areas. Like if you look at the sky, the 12 actually looks a bit more better there. If you're looking at buying the 12 Pro for video quality alone, I'm not really sure it's worth it for this. I mean, both of them produce equally sharp and colourful videos. Both have really good autofocusing. So, yeah, it's only putting these side by side where you notice some very small differences. And if you look at the 12 on its own, I think it's good enough. The 12 Pro's LiDAR scanner means you can have a better augmented reality experience. Now, augmented reality is nothing new in smartphones. It has been around for pretty much forever. It just means that it can map your surroundings a lot more accurately. You can see here that I'm using the IKEA app. It's pretty cool how the cat stays under the table. I found it's quite accurate from a distance, but as you get a lot closer, the table size doesn't change to match how close you are to the floor, which I found a little bit disappointing considering the LiDAR scanner. I also found that after 5 minutes of playing around with augmented reality, I got rather bored. So at the moment, it feels a little bit gimmicky, but hopefully in the future I'm proved wrong and maybe we'll see some more useful applications for the LiDAR scanner. The battery, yes, you've probably heard that the battery life is more gashed than it is on the 11. And you're right, it is. The 12 and 12 Pro both have 2,815 milliamp hour batteries, compared to the 11 and the 11 Pro's 3,110 and 3,046 milliamp hour batteries respectively. This is probably because they've had to shove loads of extra shit in like the Magsafe and some 5G antennas, but nonetheless it still feels a little bit like a piss take. In reality though, if you are like me and upgrading from something older than an 11, it's still going to feel like a worthy update in terms of battery life, as with both of these phones I charged them the day before and it still has quite a lot of juice in them left at the end of this day. The one thing I did find a bit annoying with the 12 Pro is it does seem to use battery a lot faster. It's a bit strange considering they've got exactly the same processor and screen. It might be because it's a bit brighter, but it is a bit annoying. I found that after a full charge and with a full day of usage, so social media, internet browsing, a bit of video watching, I was probably getting around 10 to 12 hours of battery life. With the Pro, it tends to be about an hour to 2 hours less. But you know, everyone's going to have different results. It really depends on how addicted to your phone you are. It's also worth noting that these tests were done without 5G, so when that comes into use, it will probably drain these batteries a shitload faster. This leads us on to the charging. So this year, Apple have decided to throw in a USB-C cable and they've decided to exclude the plug because it's apparently good for the environment. This is really annoying because the only place I could charge this phone for a while is via my laptop. And how is it exactly good for the environment when I'm going to have to go out and buy another plug anyway, which requires even more packaging? So sod buying Apple's one, get one of these Anker wall chargers. I'll put a link below, but basically this one has a USB-C and a USB-A port. The USB-C allows you to charge up to 18 watts, which is fast enough, and you can also take the plug off and it becomes a portable power bank, which will be handy when we finally get to go on holiday again. You can also snap a Magsafe charger to the back of the phone to charge it. I haven't tested it in this review because it's 40 bloody quid. So the next thing I'm going to buy is a case. It also only charges at 15 watts, which is slower than the charger I was talking about half a minute ago. All of the accessories for the iPhone 12 range are MagSafe compatible, i.e. they snap to the back magnetically. And you can actually charge through the cases. Wow. The leather cases and wallets start at £59, which is expensive, but you can kind of justify it if the leather is good quality. But come on, £49 for a silicone case. And £49 for this ugly thing? You must be joking. And I'd have to question how useful these snap-on leather wallets are, since most of us carry our cards in the Apple Wallet, which is also more secure, unless you really want to show off your Platinum American Express. although I do think that there will be a lot of cool third-party Magsafe accessories to come in the future, so definitely watch this space. And for me, it's been pretty useful as I can snap it to my old magnetic phone holder in my car. I do also have a sneaky suspicion that eventually Apple might just get rid of the charging port and make it MagSafe only, just because it's Apple. So what do I think then? Well, what we have to consider is that whenever we get these new models, we don't see these monumental upgrades that we used to. So people tend to keep their phones for a lot longer now, between 3 to 4 years. And also, you'd be bonkers to be spending between £800 to £1,000 a year for a slightly better camera or display. So should you upgrade? Yes, probably if you've come from an iPhone 8 or older, as you're definitely going to feel the benefits of the faster processor, better display, battery and camera. I would say it's definitely not worth the upgrade if you've come from an iPhone 11. I would even say it's not worth it if you've come from an X or an XS, because all of those phones still perform very well, so you'd be paying a lot of money for very little gain. In terms of pricing, the iPhone 12 Pro starts at £999, and that comes with 128 gigs of storage, whereas the iPhone 12 starts at £799, but that comes with 64 gigs of storage. If you want 128 gigs, it pushes the price up to £849, and that might make you think, for an extra £150, I should just go YOLO and buy the Pro model. So before ordering, definitely check how much storage space you use, because unless you're shooting 4K video all the time, you're probably going to be wasting your money if you happen to think you might need 256 or 512 gigs of storage. So which one, the iPhone 12 or the iPhone 12 Pro? For me, it's going to have to be the iPhone 12. Now don't get me wrong, the iPhone 12 Pro is a fantastic phone in its own right, but just think about this logically. Both of these phones have the same fast processors, the same screens, MagSafe and 5G. An extra £200 or £150 if you go for 128 gigs of storage is still a lot of money. 4K 60 frames per second with Dolby Vision, probably not going to benefit you unless you're a professional, in which case you would be unlikely to be using a smartphone. LiDAR scanner, good idea, but how many people take portraits with low light? And augmented reality for the moment is just a little bit too gimmicky. And to top this off, the most annoying thing is the battery. Really, the 12 Pro should have better battery life than the 12. So there you have it. Not the most substantial upgrade, but both still very good phones. The iPhone 12 would be the sensible choice, but most of you will probably still buy the 12 Pro anyway, just because you love Apple and you want everyone else to notice. Thank you for watching and sticking it out during this review, guys. If you like this video, please hit the like button and please subscribe to the channel for more incredible videos.